Good afternoon. My name is Navar Austin, and this is my presentation for Cybe 650, which is Innovation Security Frameworks for Augusta Medical Center. So we're going to be looking at their cybersecurity policy. First off, we need to know why this is being created. The why is just so we can have a larger knowledge set and we can have something in place in case anything were to happen. We can have something to look at so we can have an understanding as to how to move forward. Next, we're looking at our NIST framework. NIST framework is very flexible. It's used kind of across the board because of that flexibility. It allows companies to be able to use it as an AC fit. And to look at it, we're going to be looking at identify and protect firstly. Identify is essentially being able to identify everything within your environment so that you have an idea as to what's normal. So that's an asset list, firewalls, and monitoring so that you have a baseline of normality so that if there is anything suspicious, then you have an idea as soon as you see it. Protection or protect is just having safeguards in place, such as DMZs and air gaps. And I would highly recommend using the principle of least privilege. There's no reason that a nurse should have the same information as, say, a janitor, two different data sets that they should have access to and resources. So, no need for that to be in play there. And then lastly, we'll look at HIPAA guidelines later, and that will also kind of play into the protection. Um, so next we have detect and respond. Detect is essentially just being able to know when there is that malicious activity. It's why we have the identify. So we have a baseline of that normality. So when there is something strange going on, we have an idea. That could be using like all that monitoring software that we use. It could be potentially someone just coming and saying, "Hey, this is acting weird." And then, as soon as that happens, we need to make sure that we respond quickly. For us, that's quarantining the system immediately so we can evaluate it and kind of identify the scope of the attack. And then recovery will kind of look different depending upon the attack used, whether it's, say, an act of God versus like a malware attack. Two different continuity plans that need to be used. We have our business and security policies. Um, they play alongside each other extremely well, given that they want to make sure that they both have a safe and secure environment. Security standpoint's a little bit more alongside the information, but we still want to make sure that these people are coming in and they're not worried that their data is going to be stolen or sold to someone else. This is as much as there is doctor-patient confidentiality, we do have as much confidentiality to play into as those doctors. So we need to make sure all of that client information is safe. We have our network diagram so we can kind of see how everything interacts with each other. Internet got cut off right here at the very top. However, you can kind of see how everything else plays within it. Next, we have our risk analysis and impact, or risk assessment and impact analysis. And we are looking at our viruses, phishing, data breaches, insider threats, and physical threats. Viruses, malwares, typically just software that kind of comes in, can kind of change or corrupt data as it's programmed to do. Phishing is typically another person trying to elicit a reaction out of someone. So they'll send an email with a link or a downloadable file or something in it that has, say, a Trojan or viruses within it. Data breaches are the full extent of the extreme of a cyber attack where someone's able to come in and gain access to all that information. Insider threats can be intentional or not. Sometimes it's just someone being negligent and not knowing better. Sometimes it's an employee who just got fired who's upset and wants to cause a problem. And then we have our physical threats, and we just make sure that we have restrictions in place so that, say, a client can't come inside to the server room. Business continuity plan again looks a little bit different. Everything that I major important part when it comes down to it is that we're having our backup stored in another location. So in the act of, say, an act of God where there's a fire, um, all that data is safe, and then we can restore it onto new servers once they're back. Say in a cyber incident, we need to look at the analysis and see what systems were impacted, so we can kind of go from there. Typically, we'll boil down to possibly using an older version, getting new equipment if need be, and kind of going from there. Typically, insurance will be involved with this. And then looking at our recovery plan. So first off, well, as we've stated before, quarantine, quarantine, quarantine. Make sure that system doesn't have access to the rest of the environment. And once that's been done, we need to make sure we're contacting authorities as well as the HHS, um, which is like the health and safety kind of thing. We need to begin an evaluation to figure out what those exposed systems are and what vulnerabilities were used, and document and make sure that we have everything for A to Z set in place. Standards that we're kind of held to are obviously HIPAA and high tech, given that we're in healthcare. Um, we need to make sure that all of our data is encrypted in rest and in transport. I recommend using the AES 256 and TLS SSL techniques. Um, and this just ensures that the data is safe. Even if someone does steal it, they won't have the encryption key to read the information. High tech was just an expansion off of HIPAA. It essentially just said that we had to contact HHS, and then ISO 27001 essentially just adds a rigidity that we can really use. That rigidity within the healthcare system really go hand to hand as we're working with such confidential information. We want to make sure everything is safe. Here is the infograph. And then the executive summary, we need just to make sure that we're protecting our information as much as we possibly can using, say, encryptions, monitoring techniques, and that we're neutralizing threats before they can escalate and become a problem. And this includes that we need to make sure that we are prepared for any incident, and hopefully this guide provided that.